Good afternoon and welcome to All About Animals. I'm Sherry Graditor and my guest today is Marge Gibson. I've known Marge for...
Ever.
We're not going to talk about how many years because it would be embarrassing. Marge is the owner, the founder, the chief trainer for Leash and Collar dog training, which is up here in, is it Riverwoods?
It is Riverwoods.
Mm-hmm. It is in Riverwoods. And she's just always been my go-to person with training questions because she's brilliant. Having said that, we're going to go away from that. No more compliments today, Marge.
Okay.
I'm done. We're going to talk a little bit about training dogs. And I think we're going to start with the fact, and this from me because this is where I'm familiar, I would say 30%, 20 to 30% of dogs in an animal shelter, any given time, are there because they've never been properly trained and they have behavior problems. And those 20% of the dogs who had homes, who had families, who could have had wonderful, loving lives are behind bars today because people didn't take the time to train them. Marge, what are the basic, most important things when you're training a dog?
Puppy or adult?
Well, let's start with a puppy.
Puppies.
We got this cute little wriggly puppy and it's all over. You just want to cuddle it and.
Yeah. For us, the major problem is always mouthing. Puppy comes in and he uses you as a chew toy. Not the housebreaking as much as it is the mouthing. Because to us, we feel this is not a human behavior. We have to potty train our kids. Mm-hmm. So we're familiar with the fact that, yeah, they can have some accidents. Kids wear diapers, dogs do not. But they're attuned to the fact that a puppy needs to be housebroken. The mouthing, there are very few books, very few videos, very few trainers that really address this. And people get a puppy coming into the home and they don't know if this chewing on you as a chew toy is aggression. They never heard of it before. Mm-hmm. They don't know how to address it. This is the major problem we see as trainers coming into the puppy class. This needs to be addressed. So when we're working with a puppy program, we are addressing behavioral issues first. We cover housebreaking, mouthing, chewing, the kids and the dog. How do you sequester the animal? What do you need to do to raise a puppy into the adolescent period, which comes really fast?
Oh, yeah.
Uh-huh, yeah. And that's another problem because the human being is attuned to the fact that kids grow up, but between the terrible twos and the teenager, there's a gap.
You can catch your breath.
You can catch your breath. In the dog world, it happens like this, and it's approximately 4 to 5 months old. So students are still in a puppy class, at least with us, and the dog is entering adolescence. Now we have to cover an altogether different set of tricks.
And what are those?
Breed-specific characteristics start coming out. Mm-hmm. We start to see that rearing its head, and I know you've done some work with wolves. About 4 months old, the wolves say, "Come on, kids, come on out on the hunt." Mm-hmm. You can leave your nest. You can start exploring. We're expecting you to help us earn a living. In the dog world, this is the age bracket where from one day to the next you'll see it. Family opens the living room door and the dog is out like a shot. He's across the road, he's chasing birds, he's chasing squirrels, he's doing whatever. And yesterday he never did that. He was a little baby dog. Breed-specific things come out, the bird watching with the bird dogs, herding with the herding breeds. So we will have, especially the herding breeds, we will have complaints of he's starting to chase joggers. He's chasing a dog that is running. He's going after bicycles, any movement.
He's nipping the kids' heels.
He's going after the kids' heels. He's trying to get back at them and push them back. He's jumping all over them. He's grabbing clothing. He's doing this, he's doing that. Now we're seeing the adult behaviors that are going to be problems, and the human never expected it. Mm-hmm. They were expecting the puppy to grow up and be perfect. Mm-hmm. And even the puppy behaviors that they've worked with, the dog was so compliant and so sweet. And the next day the dog says, "Make me, I don't want to." Typical teenage behavior, very similar to humans in that respect.
Except that people don't expect it from a dog.
They don't expect it from a dog. They expect the dog to be perfect, to understand human body language, mm-hmm. human vocalizations. He knows he shouldn't have been doing that. Whenever we hear that, we say it's a standard phrase. Please, it's a cliche.
He doesn't
The dog
know.
doesn't know. You have to teach. Show me. I mean, make it done yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like that. It's an ongoing thing with dogs. It's constantly working with them throughout their lifetime, not just the obedience exercises, but making sure that they don't revert to dog, because they are a different species.
Mm-hmm.
They're not us. They're different.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
And they have to fit into our lives.
And there's another thing, and so many of the animals you talk about at shelters, we don't know because we haven't done any kind of research studies, and I don't know how well you could do them. But the dog was maybe mismatched with that family to begin with. They needed a different breed or type of dog for the type of lifestyle they live.
Mm-hmm.
And they go out and buy the cutest pet, but they have no intention of ever grooming that dog, but it needs to be groomed. Or they will get a herding breed, and these are people that spend their evenings watching the television. They don't want to get out there and exercise with the dog.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to do this. They don't want to do that. And they want the dog to become like them. Well, the dog isn't like them. And they either have to make some adjustments on their part. It's a two-way street.
Sure.
The dog must make adjustments, so must the family. And this is where we're seeing those problems come in, to get the families to do the jobs that they should do. That's one of the toughest things for all trainers, I think. Mm-hmm.
And I can tell you that there is a huge influx of dogs into shelter between 4 and 8 months old.
Mm-hmm.
Usually the complaint is chewing the furniture.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
He's all of a sudden chewing the furniture. There are tooth marks in my grand piano.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Dog is in the shelter.
Mm-hmm.
Or he chewed the corner of my oriental rug, and I've heard that one several times.
Oh, sure. So,
Yeah.
so have we.
Mm-hmm.
So have we.
And okay, so let's get practical here. Let's talk about some of these problems, because they're the problems you're going to have if you adopt that dog from a shelter as well. You've got a dog that you bring home, and for the first week or 10 days, generally shelter animals are very subdued. They're testing the water. They're afraid to make moves the first few days. The majority of them, not all of them. Some of them come back like that, but the majority not. But then they start, I went out for the first time and left the dog out of the crate, and I came back and he had eaten
Disaster.
my whatever,
Yes.
my wall, my door, my furniture, my kids' shoes. What do we do?
Basically, we're talking, and you're talking about the adolescent period that has just started. Here it comes. We hate to be anthropomorphic, but we basically will tell people, think about a teenager. Think about yourself as a young teenager. Parents are going out. And you're how old? You want to call up all your friends and have a wild party in the house? Well, basically, freedom is earned in the home. And you have to set those limits with a pet. Freedom is earned with the dog as well. And we will say, crate the dog, keep the dog crated, keep the dog in a place that he does not have problems in, and gradually start teaching the dog, don't do this, 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 this. And that isn't hard to do if you know how learning actually occurs. What most people do is scream at the dog after the fact, discipline the dog after the fact, and they don't realize that they wouldn't have a problem if they taught the dog from the get-go. Please don't get close to the couch. Please don't grab my shoes. And we can do that. We can teach the dog don't touch. And when that point comes, the dog says, I'll leave this alone. Then we say over how long a period of time until you have a habit that rather than touching my shoes, jumping up on the countertops, you're doing another behavior instead. You're lying down, you're chewing on your own toys, you're leaving these things alone. And that comes back to training. Always, right back to training.
And it's so, I mean, I can't stress how important it is. And it's not prohibitively expensive. It's not terribly time consuming. There are two things I want to go to, and I've only got 5 minutes, so I can't decide which one to do, because both of them are equally important. One of them is the adult dog, but I think basically the adult dog, bringing an adult dog into the house, is the same as an adolescent dog. It's the same thing. They carry baggage. You don't know what it is. And you learn from the dog as the dog is learning from you, and you learn to cope. And if you don't have coping skills or you can't figure out how to handle it, that's when you call a trainer. But here's the other one, and this one is nearest and dearest to my heart of everything, and I'll bet it's yours too, which is that a dog can go through weeks and months of training and come out of it perfectly trained, and then go into a house where the dog is never asked to perform any of the behaviors. What happens?
He reverts to dog.
Yes.
And now we have the dog as a different species saying, I don't understand what all this human stuff is about. I will now become the leader of the pack in the household. I will start taking over, doing things my own way, the way I want to, until eventually the family gets sick of it. And at that point, they either discipline the dog, and if we have an alpha type dog, he's going to turn around and say, hey, wait a minute. I've been ruling this roost for X period of time. I'll take on you, I'll take on the kids. Now we have a real problem going in the household. That's the aggression going. And with a shy, timid dog, he's going to be frightened. We have so many families. We'll keep on saying, you need to ask that dog 65 times to sit. It's once. Show him nicely what a sit is. He'll do it for you. But if you keep on wheedling and begging and coaxing, if you have a dog who is uncertain, he's going to become uncertain in his lifestyle. It will reflect in how he behaves.
Sure.
And if you have an alpha dog, you've got a problem.
So,
yeah,
I've seen this so many times. People who have literally sent their dogs away to boot camp and had them 6 weeks with a trainer in a residential training, and the dog comes back and the dog is push button. Sit, down, stay, heel, paw, this, that, the other, push button. And within 3 months of dragging the children around on a leash when they're being walked and never asked to go to heel, of never being asked to sit, of never being asked to do any of the things that he was taught, you have a 90-pound shepherd who is totally out of control. And I mean, I've seen one that drags every member of his family around the neighborhood like yay, and that dog was 6 weeks in a professional training facility. And that dog was so, because we've only got 2 minutes left, okay, and I have to do this, there are 2 things here. Marge, if somebody needs help, can you give people advice? Do you do that?
I don't give advice without having seen the dog and seen the family. And at that point, it's not what I can do with the dog, it's what they can do with the dog. So we start talking about their handling skills and trying to get themselves together to actually work with the dog. I did do boot camp when I started, and I only did 3 dogs. And I said, this is not for me. It doesn't matter. Dog goes back into his home. Unless that family is going to follow through, we're going to have some problems or complaints. And that's where it goes.
And rewards, certainly?
Absolutely.
Not punishment, but reward?
Learning theory tells us you learn from reinforcement, never punishment. Punishment can never tell you what is right. The dog may say, this is wrong, so I'll just chew on your piano instead. The dog is going to make decisions there. Only reinforcement, and so many people are so lax in giving it. They don't want to reinforce their pets.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Tell people how they can reach you.
They can reach us at area code 847-945-4544. Be happy to send out information.
It has been delightful.
Oh, fun.
Thank you so much for coming out.
Well, thanks for having me.
And we're now going to Save a Pet. We'll show you some of the dogs and cats that are available there for adoption.